Hello and welcome to Q&A with CNA. I'm Kyle Schwartz, and we have two guests today from Child and Adolescent Behavioral Services, and we have Kim Cernansky, who is the school-based program manager, and Kim, you've been on the program before,
Yes.
And Jessica Kurz, who's also been on Mr. Hampu's program before, and you are a school-based counselor as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we're going to start with you, Jessica. It's been a little while since you've been on the show, so refresh us a little bit about your background and also what you do at CNA.
So I'm also the Assistant Clinical Officer here at CNA and the School-Based Program Manager, as well as overseeing the Prevention Department. I'm also boots on the ground, so I work over at Washington Elementary for Marlington, and I supervise.
Okay. And what about your background? Where did you go to college, grow up?
Yep, grew up about 20 minutes east of Cleveland, and then went to Mount Union for my bachelor's, and then received my master's degree from Case Western, and then met my husband at Mount Union, so we got married and resided in State and Alliance.
Okay, all right, great. All right, and Jessica, tell us a little bit about your background.
I grew up here in Alliance, and I went to West Branch, but I moved to Akron for undergrad, where I got my undergrad in social work, and then I moved to Cleveland to start my career and went to grad school, and then I came home and we decided to have some babies and be around my family.
All right, so how long have you been with CNA?
About 7 years.
Okay, all right, great. And ever since you've been with CNA, then you've been at Alliance?
I have. I started at
Grad
Alliance
schools?
Middle School, and then about a year and a half into that, I was able to move down to the elementary level.
All right, well, great. All right, so Kim, tell us a little bit about, you mentioned some of your other roles at CNA. Tell us a little bit about what you do there.
So again, I oversee the school-based program. So we contract with 8 school districts within Starr County, Alliance and Marlington being 2 of those. So I oversee that, just making sure we have therapists like Jessica to fill those spots and make sure they're receiving mental health services in those buildings. Like I said, prevention department, we have a lot of prevention groups within Marlington and Alliance, so that's blowing up. Prevention is super important. And then, like I mentioned, I'm also doing school-based therapy at Washington in Marlington District.
Okay, so why is a school-based therapist so important and needed?
I think the most important thing is we're right there in the moment. So when kiddos are struggling, whether they're anxious or sad or something rough happened in the morning, our counselors are right there to intervene and help the kiddo through whatever they're struggling with. And we're there to answer questions for the teachers if they have questions about things that are going on with kiddos. So it's nice to have us right there in the building.
Right.
Yeah, we're seen as staff.
They would have to make an appointment and find a place and all that.
Yeah, it really takes those obstacles out of it for families.
And the staff helps so much with that, with getting them to the right people, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you see kids in Alliance and Marlington. So what are some of the things that maybe our kids are struggling with in this area that, you know, might be a little bit different?
I think it's pretty universal. I think
Okay.
the kids throughout Starr County are all struggling with similar situations and things going on in their lives with anxiety and depression, things that happen on social media that carry over into the school. You know, here, this community is a little bit smaller and tighter as opposed to like Canton City, which is a bigger district, or Glen Oak. But I really think it's universal as far as all the kiddos are struggling with similar things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you had some advice for parents as far as you mentioned social media, if you had some small bit of advice, what would you say?
Monitor that, you know, obviously. Talk to your kids, you know, sit down, have dinner together, check in on them. Who are they hanging out with? I mean, that's super important to know what's going on in their lives and spending that time to figure out what's going on in school, classes, teachers, just being a part of their everyday lives.
Okay, all right, that's great. All right, and Jessica, let's talk about one of like a typical day as in your job as a school-based counselor.
A typical day for me is I like to walk in and talk to the secretary, school counselor, even teachers, kind of see if anything's going on, if they've had any phone calls yet. Sometimes things happen the night before and parents thankfully call in to let us know what's going on. Or even they call and ask specifically for me to see their kid when they get there. And I like to welcome the kids as they come, since I'm at the elementary, you know, see how their night was, their morning. I talk to a lot of kids in the hallway, whether they're my clients or just kids who know who I am because I'm in the building every day. And then every day is a little bit different. Some days I have certain students that I'm going to see. That way they know I'm coming on Tuesday to see them. But I kind of play it by ear. And if a teacher calls me because they need some help, or if something's going on in the cafeteria, I'll walk on down to help. It just depends on what the need is that day.
Okay, so what are some of the scenarios, like what do you do with your clients then when you're in the school?
A lot of times, regardless of what the situation is, it's always figuring out how they feel and how we're going to kind of deal with that. A lot of problem solving, processing their feelings, maybe what the situation was, whether it was at home or with a friend, and better ways to handle our emotions the next time, or to cope and kind of deal with it in the moment and then express ourselves later on maybe. But there are times where we're dealing with some grief, maybe some events that have happened at home, processing losing a pet, different things like that. I try to do a lot of games, coloring, playing. That way they're engaged
And
in their
talk
work.
to them while they're just
Yes.
hands-on doing
Yep.
something
So that way
else.
they're having fun, but they're also being able to kind of figure out what they're dealing with.
Right. So we're at the beginning of the school year. What advice would each of you give to parents as we start this school year?
I think the most important thing is those open houses and meet the teacher nights. Making sure you go to those things, or when there's school activities, making sure you attend those things. I know during open house you can go meet the teacher, see your classroom, walk the hallways, check your locker out, practice your combination, walk your schedule. I think those are some important things to do. Getting back in that school routine is super important. So not staying up late, playing video games, being out with friends, being home, eating healthy, getting your sleep. And again, checking in with your kids. I know we're busy, we're parents, we're active with kids in sports, and just making sure you still have that time to sit down and check in with your kiddo.
Okay. All right. What about you?
I agree, and going with that is being present and kind of that communication year round, not just to start off strong, but to continue it as, especially through holidays, and then we come back after holidays, and just being there.
Start over again.
Right, and being there for your kids, and that communication even with the school or with us if we're involved, and things like that.
All right. Well, Kim and Jessica, is there anything else you wanted to add before we close? Oh, I know we were talking about the move.
Yeah, so we have extended our partnership with Alliance City Schools. We've been, very close with you guys in the partnership we've had over the past couple years. But we are moving into Parkway. We'll be upstairs in January. That will be happening. We'll be officially moved in. We're really excited to be, in the community even more. It's comfortable for families to come into the school, which they know. So we're excited, even for our Marlington families, to come into a neighborhood school and be there with us. So we're excited about it. Yeah.
Okay. Anything you wanted to add?
No, I mean, I'm excited for that as well, especially over summertime when we're still seeing kiddos. And
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks to both of you for being here and for what you do for our kids here.
Thanks for having us.
All right. And thank you for watching Q&A with CNA. I'm Kyle Schwarz.